Hi everybody, welcome to Sri Sai online training. Um, so today I'm going to have a demo session on Angular 9, which is a UI technology. So myself, Sai sir, I'm a computer software trainer. So I'm going to teach you Angular 9 for the next 45 to 50 sessions. So today in this demo session, we are going to discuss the following topics. So we are going to understand Angular, what is Angular? And in this Angular, we are going to discuss free TypeScript also. So I'm going to provide free TypeScript along with this Angular. So what is Angular? We'll discuss. So where we use Angular, that is the second topic. And next, we'll try to understand what is TypeScript. Next, what is framework? Why we have to go for Angular? Okay, and what are Angular building blocks, Angular versions. So in this demo sessions, we are going to discuss these topics. So let's start with what is Angular, right? So let's try to understand what is Angular. So first of all, Angular is a client-side framework for developing dynamic web applications. Okay, Angular is a client-side TypeScript framework for developing dynamic web applications. Okay, so what is web? Okay, so I'll write here, what is web? So web means internet. Okay, so internet will have different websites. So internet will have different websites. So internet is a collection of websites. Next one, what is app? So app means application. Okay, so app means application. So what is application? Application is nothing but collection of programs. Collection of computer programs is nothing but our app or application, right? So we have different websites. Example, www.gmail.com, www.facebook.com, www.yahoo.com, etc. So collection of all these makes up internet. Okay, and these websites are technically known as web applications. Okay, so I'll write here, note, websites are technically known as web applications. Okay, so the technical word for website is web application. So Angular is a client-side TypeScript framework for developing dynamic web application. So now web application means websites. Now we'll understand what is this dynamic web application. So dynamic web application. So what do you mean by dynamic web application? So dynamic web applications are those web applications in which data or information changes with respect to three parameters. Data or information changes with respect to three parameters. The first parameter is time. So from time to time, data or information changes. Example, news updates. The best example for news updates is Google News. Okay, or Yahoo News. So in Google News, Yahoo News, okay, data or information changes from time to time. Next, second one, location to location. So here data or information changes with respect to the location. Example, weather reporting websites. Okay, so example for this is Google weather reports. Okay, so Google weather reports, so from location to location it is going to change the data. So I'm going to give you one small scenario for this. Okay, so small example, for example, in Hyderabad, okay, now it is something like 36 degrees. Okay, same thing you can take Bangalore, the temperature is something like 33 degrees. Okay, and same thing if you take Kashmir, okay, the temperature is something like 10 degrees in Kashmir. So here from location to location the data or information is changing. So this is called as dynamic information weather reporting applications. Similarly, user to user data or information will be changing. Example, Gmail, Facebook. Okay, so for this Gmail and Facebook, every user has their own user ID and passwords. So based on this user IDs and passwords, they will do login to the website, so they can see their own mails, their own post, their own data, and their own comments, sharings, etc., likes, dislikes. So every user logins to the web application with their own user ID and password, and they will be able to see their own data which is available in the application. So this is what we call it as dynamic applications or dynamic web applications. So web application is nothing but website. It is nothing but website. So Angular is a client-side framework, TypeScript framework for developing dynamic web applications. So now in this we understood what is this web application, what is this dynamic web application. Next we'll see what is TypeScript, and also we'll try to understand what is framework and what is this client side. Right. So now let us try to understand the next topic. Most of the students have one familiar doubt. Okay, so this is a frequent doubt. Okay, so mostly asked doubt. So what is doubt? The doubt is, what is the main difference between AngularJS and Angular? So the main difference between AngularJS and Angular is AngularJS is a JavaScript framework. Okay, so I'll stress here AngularJS. JS stands for JavaScript. Okay, whereas Angular is a TypeScript framework. Angular is a TypeScript framework. So both are not same. AngularJS is a JavaScript framework, whereas Angular is a TypeScript framework. So the next second confusion with the students is people think that AngularJS is the first version, okay, and Angular is the second version. So this is not completely correct. Okay, this is completely wrong, we can say. So both are not, okay, not at all, okay, first version or second version. This is not correct. Right. So AngularJS is not the first version of Angular. So Angular is a separate framework and it is not related to AngularJS. So I'll give you one small example for this. Okay. So this is a small example to understand the difference between AngularJS and Angular. So for example, if you take same like Java, so Java supports object-oriented programming, okay, and .NET also supports object-oriented programming. So in Java we have object-oriented programming, as well as in .NET also we have object-oriented programming. So object-oriented programming is a subject, is a concept using which we are going to develop computer applications. Okay, so object oriented programming is a concept used in programming languages for developing computer applications. Okay, so similarly, using AngularJS also we can develop dynamic web applications, and using Angular also we can develop dynamic web applications. So that is what we have to understand. Okay, so using AngularJS and also using Angular, we can develop dynamic web applications. So using both of them, we can develop dynamic web applications. So both are not same. AngularJS is a JavaScript framework, whereas Angular is a TypeScript framework. So it is something like Java. Java is a programming language with OOPS. .NET is also a programming language with OOPS. Using both of them, we can develop computer applications. So in the same way, using AngularJS or using Angular, we can develop dynamic web applications. Right. So now we'll try to understand more about this in the different topics. So now let us try to understand what is this client. Okay, right? So client. So whenever you want to develop any website or web application, we require three-tier architecture. Okay, so when you want to develop any website or web application, we require three-tier architecture. So what is this three-tier architecture? Okay, so three-tier architecture, it is a model. It is a model for developing any web application. Okay, so web application means website. So if you want to develop any website, we have to follow this model. So this model is divided into three layers: client, server, database. Okay, so let's try to understand this client, server, database using a diagram. So we'll take a small diagram on this. What is this client, server, and database? Right. So this is three-tier architecture. So in this three-tier architecture of developing computer web applications, which is nothing but a website, our website is divided into three sections. Okay, right. So the first section of our web application development is client. The second section is server, and the third section is database. Okay, so the first section or first layer is called as tier 1, presentation layer or front end. Tier 1, presentation layer or front end. The second section, server, is known as technically tier 2, middleware layer or business logic layer. Next, the third section is database. So in this database, storage layer or backend layer. So this is tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. So what happens in this tier 1, tier 2, tier 3? So let's try to understand all these three one by one. So tier 1 is nothing but a client. Okay, so who is this client? So client is nothing but our browser software. Okay, so we have different browsers in our system, like we have Google Chrome browser, Mozilla Firefox browser, Internet Explorer or Edge browser, etc. So in this browser we type a website. So when we type a website, the request goes to the server over internet connection, and on the server, okay, we have a server software, and in this server software we use server-side technologies to write the program. Example, we use Java technology, we use .NET technology, we use PHP technology, or we use Python technology. So these are the different technologies which are used on the server to accept the client request, to process the client request, and send that reply as response back to the client. Okay, so three things happens here. Okay, and that is nothing but accepting the client request, next processing the client request, and finally sending that as a response back to the clients. Okay, so this is what a server is going to do for us, right? And inside the server, if you require any dynamic information, so what server will do? So server is going to communicate with the database. Okay, so server is going to communicate with the database, means Java program, okay, right, or .NET program, or PHP program, or Python program. So these programs communicate with the database, and the commonly used database technologies are Oracle, MySQL, SQL Server, MongoDB, Ingress, PostgreSQL, etc. And the dynamic information data which changes with respect to time, location, user is available in the database. So from database, it is sent back to the clients. It is sent back to the server, right? And from server, that data is sent as a response back to the client. And in the client browser, you can see that response as web page. And this web page is designed using HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and now we are going to use TypeScript also. So this is how web application is developed in three layers: client, server, database. So tier 1 presentation layer, tier 2 middleware layer, tier 3 data storage layer. So our concern here is tier 1. So we are mainly going to talk about tier 1. This is our concern. And tier 1, we are going to concentrate more on UI technology. So our Angular is also one of the UI technology, okay, which is a TypeScript framework, client-side TypeScript framework for developing dynamic web applications. So this is a three-tier architecture for developing any web application or dynamic web application. Okay, so client. So client is nothing but our browser software. So in this browser software, we'll display the web page. And for developing any web page, we use mainly three technologies. First one, HTML, and the main concern of HTML is displaying the data in a web page. 2, CSS. So CSS will make our data more stylish, more colorful, more attractive. And 3, JavaScript. So in your web page, if you want to perform any programming activity, then we have to go for JavaScript. And finally, TypeScript. So TypeScript. So what is TypeScript? So TypeScript is nothing but superset of JavaScript. So superset of JavaScript means we can do better programming when compared to JavaScript. Okay, so JavaScript plus extra things is nothing but TypeScript. So TypeScript is equivalent to JavaScript plus extra programming. So this is what is our programming in our dynamic web application using TypeScript: client, server, and database. So this is a 3-tier architecture which is used for developing any dynamic web application. Right. Now let us try to understand what is TypeScript now. Okay. Right. So let's try to understand what is TypeScript. So TypeScript is a superscript of JavaScript. Okay. So TypeScript is a superscript of JavaScript. Okay. So who developed this TypeScript? So TypeScript was developed by Microsoft. Okay. So TypeScript was developed by Microsoft company. So this TypeScript was developed in 1995-96 by Microsoft. And TypeScript is a strictly typed language. So when it is a strictly typed language, TypeScript supports data types, classes, interfaces, inheritance, modules, lambda functions, okay, lambda functions, etc. So more programming capability can be done in a web page using TypeScript. So this is what is the main advantage of TypeScript when compared to JavaScript. So main advantage of TypeScript when compared to JavaScript. Right. Now we'll try to understand what is TypeScript framework. Okay. So we say Angular as a TypeScript framework. So what is this framework? So framework means runtime library plus runtime environment. Okay, so framework means runtime library plus runtime environment. So this is what is we call it as framework. So what is this library? So library means we have predefined modules, classes, functions. So this library we can use it in our program directly. Okay, so using this library we can make our programming more simple and easy. So that is what we call it as library. Environment. So environment means our coding execution is done in a particular environment. Okay, so environment is a place where our coding gets executed. So Angular is a TypeScript framework. So framework means library plus environment. In library, we have predefined modules, classes, functions, methods, etc. And in environment, it will provide us a space for executing our program. So that is what we call it as environment. So library plus environment makes a framework. Right. And so one more thing. So now we understood what is Angular is a TypeScript framework. Now we'll try to understand what is right. Right, Gopi, can you hear me? Right, yeah, fine. Now let us try to understand, okay, what, right, we'll understand now Angular as an application platform. Okay, now what is this application platform? So my application platform means we can integrate multiple technologies using Angular for developing dynamic web applications. Okay, so we can use multiple technologies along with Angular for developing dynamic web applications. For example, we can use example we can use jQuery, we can use Bootstrap, etc. So these technologies can be used in our Angular for developing dynamic web applications. So that is what we call it as application platform. Okay, so Angular is an application platform. Multiple technologies can be integrated with our Angular. And finally, it is developed by, okay, Google, and it also supports Microsoft TypeScript. Okay, so basically this is developed by Google and it also supports TypeScript. And next, this is a completely newly developed framework. Okay, we can also call this as web framework or web application framework. So it is a completely and newly developed web application framework by the same team which had developed AngularJS. And the main use of this is Angular is developing single page application. So single page application means the best example is www.gmail.com. So the complete application will be there in a single page. So that is what we call it as single page application. Okay, so I'll write it down here. So single page application means complete web application is available in a single web page. So in the single web page, we can access all the contents of our web application. So this is what we call it as single page application or SPA. So this is what is the main use of Angular web application framework for developing single page applications. Right, so Angular is a TypeScript framework. Angular is an application platform. So framework means runtime library and runtime environment, and application platform means so different technologies can be integrated with our Angular TypeScript web applications for developing dynamic web application. So this is what is all about our demo session, Angular demo session. Right, so our Angular demo sessions, okay, will be totally 45 to 50 sessions. It will be totally 45 to 50 sessions, and in the first week we are going to discuss free TypeScript, and daily it will be 1 hour session. Okay, so as we discussed, the timings will be 11 a.m. Okay, if necessary, we'll take extra hours also. And here every session is recorded, and these recordings will be provided to the students, okay, for access. Okay, so these recording videos will be provided to students daily basis. So these are daily basis of recording the videos, and these records will be shared with Google Drive. So Google Drive for 3 months. Okay, so you can access all our recorded videos for the next 3 months after completion of the course. And this is my Gmail ID, srikant.sai.online, from which I'm going to share the daily recorded videos. So that is what is all about Angular 9 demo session. Thank you for listening to this session. Have a nice day.